Have you ever had the impression when you were playing at least some war games that movement was overrated? Yes, sure, there are several war games or many war games that are all about maneuvering, trying to attack the opponent on the flank, surround them, cut your supply lines, etc., etc. But also many other games, especially when we're talking about the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the early modern, where the battle was a fairly static affair. It was like we're moving next to their line and then we exchange blows. For the rest of the game pretty much. And sometimes when I play those games I'm thinking, what did we need all those rules about moving and terrain and maneuvering when ultimately it's just about putting that unit here rather than there, one next to the right or one next to the left before they're stuck attacking and exchanging blows for the rest of the game. And so there are sometimes cases where I thought to myself, maybe we could have games that abstract movement and we simply get to the good stuff, to the attacking part. Well, I know that I'm not the only one that had that thought, because there's at least one other person that thought about that, and that person is Tom Russell, the designer of Table Battles. So this is a wargame system that seems to be built precisely on that premise. It is about battles that were fairly static in nature, where maneuvering was the main element, and this is a system where you have formations represented by cards, and you will roll dice and use them to activate actions that the formations can perform without actually moving the cards representing the formations on a board or in a play area. It simply abstracts the fact that you can imagine that this unit is attacking that flank, that unit is attacking the center, the artillery screening, etc., etc. This is a system which is super simple, super accessible, definitely introductory level. It covers 8 battles, and you find everything in a PDF document. This is a print and play game, so you purchase the document, you print the rules, the cards, you add a couple of other commonly found components, especially commonly found in the game collection of a hobby player, and voila, you have a system. It's very easy to learn, and then you have 8 battles that you can play in that system. And we find in this set here, Table Battles, 8 battles that go from the Renaissance to the Age of Enlightenment. Now, without further ado, let me show you how Table Battles works. This is a print and play game, so you will purchase the PDF of the game, you will print rules and paper components, and then you'll cut them, assemble them, and you will add some components such as dice and tokens. The game is very simple. It comes with just 3 pages of rules. This is it, friends. This is the rule book. This is pretty much all you need. Then you have a sheet with the various setup instructions. That pretty much is which cards you use in each battle, and then you will have various sets of cards, and you will use only some of them for each battle, following the setup instructions that I showed you earlier. So each side will have a pool of cards. In some battles all cards will be available, in some battles such as this one some cards will be placed in reserve, and different cards will have different types of abilities and skills and things that they can do. Now, the game is extremely easy to build, which is good for me. I like to play print and play games, but I'm not very crafty when it comes to building stuff. Here all you need to do is to prepare these cards, and again, to provide components such as dice and tokens. As you can see, I haven't even mounted them. When I play print and play games that have cards, I usually glue the paper on a cereal box, and then I cut off the cards so they're sturdier. But these are not cards that you're gonna shuffle. You're gonna put them on the table, and they're not gonna move until you remove them from the game. So they don't need to take any sort of like stress. They don't need to be sturdy. It can be as simple as that, like I did. You print the paper and then you cut the cards, and pretty much you have the game. Now, as I said, you had these cards and they represent different formations within your army. Each formation has a name, very important, so we can identify them. A number of, call them health points, strength points, life points. That is, you place a number of tokens next to the card equal to the number printed on the card. And when that formation has lost all of its tokens, the formation routes. Here we have numbers that indicates the type of dice that will go on that card. Basically, the idea is that you will place dice on your cards, on the formations, and then you remove them to perform actions. And at the end of your round, you can roll all of your dice that are not allocated to cards, and then you can assign them. So pretty much is actions for in your turn, you take an action by removing dice from a card, and then you can roll and reallocate dice. Pretty much that means that since you roll at the end of a turn, you will set up the possible actions that you will perform next turn. For example, this card here only takes 5s or 6s, and since there's a slash, it means either or, but actually in this case means either, because when the number is bracketed, you can only place 1 die there per turn. Doubles, that means you can only place dice that have the same value. Straight, well, then you need to place dice that form a straight, and you see there is a number next to the straight indication, and that means how big, how long, how large, what is the range of the straight. You can place a straight of 4 there. Here, 6s, doubles, other things could be triples, any die for Cromwell, he's very flexible, this sort of thing. So you will place dice on your cards, pretty much loading actions, making actions ready. When it is your turn, you again remove dice from one of your cards to perform an action. Remove every die on the action of the card for which you're performing the action, even if there are more than necessary, you still remove them all. And each card has a number of possible actions that you can perform with that card, and also it tells you the requirement, which may be not specified, in which case it simply means a certain effect per die that you remove. Other times it may be specified. For example, to activate that action from Byron's formation, I need to remove 2 pairs from there. Oh, look at that, I had prepared that action before. So I remove these 2 pairs and I inflict 1 hit on Cromwell. So you have the type of action, what is required, and the target and the effect. When I inflict a hit on an enemy formation, such as this one, I remove a hit point from there. And suppose that now it is my, then I roll dice, I do my thing, now this side goes, and this side had these dice placed there from previous turns. This side decides to activate this card to perform that action. And in this case, the action is to attack. I inflict 1 hit per die that I remove. In this case, there will be 3 hits. Also, 1 self per action. That means that the unit takes 1 hit when activating. It's a hit on self. And I decide, say, to inflict these damages here on Tillier's right. And so I remove 3 hits from there. This is pretty much the general idea. A lot of work has been done for you here by hardwiring things, by the fact that you're placing the dice, choosing when to do it, when to remove the dice to perform actions, and the units seem to be performing historically. There's a range of things that they can do. The point here is that you're trying to rout enemy units, that is to deplete them entirely, and also to affect their morale. Each army will have a number of morale points, and you're trying to reduce those to 0. There are a couple of other things, specific rules. For example, some cards may have the retire indication here. That means that you can choose to retire the card after it has taken a bunch of hits, which is not as routing. It's order retire, and when you do so, you can replace it with a card which is in reserve that has a matching indication. So I can retire Tillier's right and replace it with the white coats. Other things, screen, for example, you can use it to cancel an enemy attack. In fact, there are several effects that are reactions to what the opponent is doing. The rule is that if you have a reaction, quote unquote, loaded, that is, you have the dice on a card that allow you to perform a certain reaction, you must take it. It's mandatory, and I like that. It represents the fact that sometimes your people do things that maybe don't do them when you want them to do, or not the things that they will like them to do. They are ready to pursue, they are ready to screen, and they do that because they're very excited to perform the action, but it's not exactly when and how you wanted it. So if you have a reaction described on one of your cards and you have the dice to perform it, you have to perform it. Also, when you take a reaction, you skip your main action for that turn. But this is the general idea. You alternate removing dice from your cards, or dice that you will have prepared in previous turns, to perform an action, usually to inflict hits on the opponent or to manipulate the formations that you have, their health, things like that. Remove dice, perform an action, roll dice, allocate them, the opponent goes, and you go, so on and so forth, until a number of enemy units has been routed, or until the morale of the opponent has been reduced to 0. When I travel, I usually like to bring print and play games with me for a variety of reasons. First, they pack light, they're easy to carry from one place to the other. They're usually very light and small, and if they aren't, well, then I make a copy that is smaller than the standard one, as long as it is still playable. Also, another thing is that if something happens, if I lose the game, if I spill water on it, or whatever happens during the trip, well, I just build another copy at home. It isn't like I ruined the game that was very expensive. So there definitely are advantages in using print and play games as travel games, which is what I do, but of course that is only worth it if the game is actually good. Otherwise, what is the point? And table battles is a pleasantly surprisingly good game. I really enjoyed the battles that I played. I've had a lot of fun with these battles. They're quick, they're simple, they're light, they're easy to set up, easy to put away. You stack the cards and you're good to go. And that's another thing, of course, about travel games. If you're setting up a big game on your game table in your basement and you're going to play for weeks, then it's okay if it took you 4 hours to set it up and 4 hours to put it away. It's a good investment. Not when you're traveling, you cannot do that. So this is a perfect travel game. Each battle lasts between 10 and 20 minutes, also depending on a little bit of luck and things like that. And so you can also play the same battle several times over and over again, exploring different things, exploring different situations. But I like the general idea, at the core. As I said, it may seem too abstract at first, but when you really start looking into all of the hardwiring that has been done, all of the thematic elements that have been ingrained in the capabilities of the units, the dice that they need to activate actions, whom they can attack, and you will realize that the theme is definitely there. It is just that all of those things that in other games require rules for you to learn and implement have been taken care of for you. You roll dice, assign them, resolve actions, and the units will act thematically. For example, even just the placement of units in the battlefield, by the fact that unit A can attack units B and C but not F and G, you don't have to worry about it. And again, that is something that in X Encounters games is implied. Sure, potentially I could move my units from one wing and make them parade across the X-based battlefield in front of the enemy units to attack the opposite wing. But who is going to do that is going to look silly historically, and is also going to be terrible in terms of gameplay. Why not simply forget about, again, worrying about terrain, all those things, and simply say, this guy can attack that one, and maybe that other person, and maybe that other formation, which still makes sense, they could have attacked, but we simply don't offer the option of attacking units that would not have made sense, that a certain unit would go against in the battlefield. Similarly, you have another series of elements that have been taken care for you in simply the range of dice, the range of dice results that the units of a certain army need to use to activate, to perform actions. For example, you may have an army that say only The cards on that army only take a die per turn, and they all activate. They only takes. They all only take 5s and 6s. Then I'm rolling 1, 2, 3, 4, and those are useless. So I'm rolling a lot and not doing much. That right there simulates possible problems in morale, discipline, chain of command, things like that. Whereas you may have other armies that have a larger range of possible results, and that simulates effectiveness, elite units, better leadership, coordination. If, for example, I have an army in which a card activates with 5s, a card with 6s, a card with any pair, and a card with any die, well, then it's not going to be likely that I'm going to have many rolls in which I roll all my dice and I cannot do anything. Then there are more chances that it activates people whenever I want. So, and also on top of that, of course, the actions that they can take will have more or less effectiveness. A unit that it hits hard but also gets hurt a lot will have a lot of damage that it inflicts and a lot of self damage. Another unit is effective and harder to destroy, and they inflict hits but they do not have self damage. All these things you do not have to worry about are right there in the cards. Of course, you will want to pay some attention to that. You're looking at your army, you are seeing the capabilities, the limitations, and you're trying to exploit the possibilities and to create a nice back and forth. It is all about creating opportunities. It is all about waiting for the right moment before you unleash a certain attack. But I like how you can concentrate on what your units can effectively do and on gameplay rather than having to worry about a lot of fiddly rules. In a certain sense, it's a game that feels deeper than what you would expect from something which is so simple, because again, so much homework has been done by the designer before you even printed your own copy of the game, and so the design allows the player to keep their attention focused on what really matters: gameplay, unit capabilities, flow of the battle. Really good ideas. I'm really impressed. I really had a good time playing this game. It is perfectly enjoyable as a solitaire game. You just play both sides at the best of your possibilities, and the limited knowledge that you have about the future due to the random element of the constant die rolling will keep the experience fresh, will allow you to be surprised all the time. As you switch perspective, you have different sets of problems to analyze, and all that, of course, is fun. It's a fun element of the word game experience. In general, I have to tell you, Table Battles is a really good investment. It's not particularly expensive, it's very easy to print, it has huge replay value, and it is a system that, well, that I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of the system. I want to see where it goes next. I think it can be applied to so many different things, and I want to see more battles in the system in the future, because I really had a good time playing Table Battles. I hope you give it a try. It's a really good game, also inexpensive, easy to craft, makes a great solo, and also makes a great travel game. Table Battles, really good stuff.